All right, day 7, 7th post. Quarantine time out here in Mammoth, AZ. For the wild and woolly wordsmith here. You'll see I'm decided it was time for the post-apocalyptic haircut. Yes, sir. A little sparse on top. Yeah, I know. There's the back. Yeah. Just decided to cut my hair, and the Milo man insisted that I cut the mohawk. And, well, I mean, when you have a 7-year-old, you cut the mohawk, right? Anyway, here we are, 7th post. And Arizona still really hasn't locked anything down. Yes, the schools are closed, restaurants and bars are closed. But, well, the direct impact is my wife. My wife does work right now. She works at a convenience store. And it turns out they are the people with the highest risk and lowest, absolute lowest payout for their risk in this current crisis. Only nurses have a higher rate of exposure, which they also have a whole lot more equipment to save them from the exposure. But they have a higher rate of exposure, but they're also getting paid a whole hell of a lot more. And there are certain safeguards in place for them should they get sick. They've got insurance. They're going to be covered. They're going to be treated so they can get back to work. Most convenience store clerks or cashiers of any sort don't have that safety net. And they're not making $20 an hour, $30 an hour. They're barely making 11, 12. Okay, some places $7, $50, $8, $12, and they ain't got no insurance. They don't have sick leave. They don't have a month's worth of anything put away to be, they're just, so the discussion has come up, at what point does she quit going to work? Arizona has, shut a lot of things down, and we're out in a small community. It's one of the only stores. Odds are it's not going to get closed ever. And, I'm in my 50s with chronic bronchitis. My wife isn't in a major risk factor per se, but I am, I'm not in my 70s or 80s, but I have chronic lung problems. Okay. I was feeling really horrible the last couple of weeks, and I was kind of putting it off to just having, maybe a cold or what have you, blowing off my own asthma. And part of it was because, my son, though his asthma acts up very rarely, he has, the risk of some asthma. And so I had one inhaler with like 10 shots left on it, and I just wasn't even touching it until I could get a refill. And getting a refill for my prescription was just not something there's a lot of shit going on. And so I blew it off. Man, finally yesterday, I found an extra inhaler, found another inhaler in the closet. So we're not down to just 10 blasts. I've got a refill on the way in the mail, but it's down to 10 blasts. And so I was just saving it for the kid and pretending I didn't have a problem. But I started using my inhaler yesterday because I'd found another one and knew we had a safety valve. And all of a sudden I can breathe so much better. I made a video the other day. I was singing to my daughter, and oh my God, I could listen to myself and I could tell I was having trouble breathing. So, anyway, my risk factor, the fact that my son has also had asthma in the past and can have it as a problem, the fact that we have a child under 5, they're supposed to be in a risk area as well. And again, that it's not like my wife is making, $2,000 a week to go put herself at risk. She's lucky, that because of this, not only is she working at a convenience store, but her hours have been cut because sales are down, because we're out in the middle of nowhere and things are, anyway. So her hours have also been cut at this time, not expanded. She's not getting any sort of hazard pay. They're not making any sort of extraordinary measures. It's not like Market of Choice back in Oregon where their cashiers are in hazmat suits. Okay, they're really doing what they can. And their cashiers, not only are they in hazmat shoes, but they make $15 to begin with, and their cashiers are getting hazard pay. But And I'm not saying it's not. This is not so much a shame on Circle K. I mean, it is, but nobody else is doing. Market of choice is an exception. They aren't the rule. It should be the rule, but it's not. But the idea that Arizona in general and Circle K here in Arizona is adhering to what Arizona's doing, they're just not taking it quite serious enough. I mean, it would be nice if they would close the doors on the Circle K and only allow 3 customers in at a time, maybe, or 1 customer in at a time, to limit exposure even more. So at least you're only having to deal with 1 person standing there. You don't have a line generating, so 3 people are getting people sick. You just kind of take turns coming in the store. But they're not doing anything like that. They've not provided any masks. They have gloves there. And my wife actually got a little, how many gloves are you going to use? Because she's using gloves as much, not as much as the CDC says to use them, mind you. But she got how many gloves are you going to use? And my wife threw a little head nod in there and was like, exactly how many I need. As many as I need, or something along those lines. And moved on to something else to make sure there was no argument. So we're having that discussion. At what point do you just quit, hun? But yeah, it's our only source of income. There's nothing else, Does she stick around and wait for the layoff? Hope there's going to be a layoff? Because unemployment's been jacked up for people that are out of work, but there's a Circle K and a General Dollar in town. There's only 2. And, unless they decide to err on the side of caution and close on graveyard, which is the shift my wife normally works, the layoff doesn't seem like it's going to, at least at this point, doesn't seem like it's going to happen. But at the same time, we don't see any extra precautions being taken. And so we're kind of in a pinch. It's one of those, okay, at this point, there is no safety net. Now, she doesn't have to quit. She can take a leave of absence and not be penalized, be able to be rehired. So she does have that option, but that option, at least in the current state of affairs, does not get her unemployment benefits. It would simply be, well, come back when you want then. We're not firing you. You're not, you're just kind of stepping away. You're not really quitting. You're just taking yourself off the schedule. And at this point, at least the way I understand it, that's not going to work. That wouldn't allow her for unemployment benefits. Now, maybe I'm wrong. If I am, somebody let me know. But we've already, she's already decided, okay, as soon as she can, she's put in for vacation days. Now, maybe putting in for vacation days will cause the company to look at it and decide to lay her off. Punitively, even. And this would be one circumstance where them laying her off in retaliation or firing her in retaliation would be perfect. Because then, boom, unemployment's there. So, the Congress ever finishes up doing this stimulus package, which I hope they're going to finish up today, boom, we know that's coming. Then that comes into the equation too. At what point do we just say, screw unemployment? If that $5,000 comes in or $4,000 comes in of taxpayer relief, does she just take the leave of absence and we tighten our belt for 2 months until it seems like, summer's here and the worst is over, and then she can try to go back to work? Do we take that $4,000 plus what we've squirreled away from our tax refund, sit this out and try and move while she doesn't have to work for a month or so because she's on a leave of absence? Moving's going to be tricky. It would be the perfect time to do it, but odds are nobody's showing houses. So, I don't know. If unemployment comes in, there again, maybe this is the opportunity to move once this cools off for the summer. We might be able to, move while she had again, the stimulus package and a regular unemployment check bolstered by the tax refund and ultimately bolstered by something without any monetary value, but her having the time to be here so we could actually pack and move in a fairly short amount of time if we were both here able to do it. So lots of things to think about. At what point do we say, fuck the money coming in, she's got to quit because I'm at risk, my son's at risk, and hell, they've decided now that, or they're figuring out now that even the youth are at risk. Everybody's at risk. You may not be at risk of dying, but you're still at risk of being in the hospital for 2 or 3 months. And that will, so everybody's at risk of bankruptcy, if not death. In fact, the only ones at risk of bankruptcy are the ones that are going to die. So, do you continue working so you can go bankrupt? You finally get sick and go bankrupt? Do you quit working so that you can end up homeless and thus perhaps more exposed to the disease? So, I don't know. It's at this point, it looks like, vacation time. And then if things are continuing to get worse when vacation ends, sabbatical, or leave of absence. Hopefully that makes, this is Arizona, so it will get to summertime here sooner than other places. So perhaps after, a week and a half, 2 weeks of vacation, or 10 days of vacation and a month of leave of absence, maybe the worst will be over down here in Arizona, at least till summer's over. I don't know. Choices to make, huh? Post number 7 from the Wild and Woolly Wordsmith, wildandwoollywordsmith.com, barbaryallen.wordpress.com. See you tomorrow.